Today, 18 September 2021, in remembrance of 350,000 Bosnian Muslims. Death didn't come easy. The genocide by Christian Serb terrorists against the Muslims of Bosnia. Approximately 100,000 Muslims were martyred. 60,000 women and girls were raped. 1.5 million people were abandoned. Do we remember it? Or have we forgotten it? Or are we totally ignorant about it? Christian Amanpour of CNN spoke about the memory of the Bosnian massacres and asked, does history repeat itself? She commented on the memory of Bosnia. It was a medieval war of killing, blockade, and starvation of Muslims, and Europe refused to intervene, saying that it was a civil war. That was a myth. The Holocaust lasted for about 4 years, during which the Serbs demolished more than 800 mosques, some of which were built in the 16th century. They burned the Sarajevo Historical Library. The United Nations interfered and placed two gates at the entrances of Muslim cities such as Goraga, Srebrenica, and Zefa. But they were under siege and fire, and their protection did nothing. The Serbs put thousands of Muslims in detention camps, tortured them, and starved them until they became skeletons. When a Serb commander was asked why, he said, because they don't eat pork. The Guardian published Days of the Bosnian Massacres, a full-page map showing the location of the rape camps of Muslim women. 70 camps, some within Serbia itself. The Serb raped children, a 4-year-old girl, blood running between her legs. The Guardian published a report on it entitled "The Child Whose Guilt is Being a Muslim." Pastor Mladic invited the leader of Muslims in Zefa to a meeting. He gave him a cigarette, laughed with him a little, then swooped on him and slaughtered him. The most famous crime was the siege of Srebrenica. The international soldiers crusaders were together with the Serbs, dancing, and some bargained for Muslim women regarding their chastity in exchange for a bite of food. The Serbs had besieged Srebrenica for 2 years, during which the shelling did not stop for a moment. The Serbs were also taking a large part of the aid bin to go to the Muslim towns. Then the West decided to hand it over to the wolves. The Dutch battalion protecting Srebrenica conspired with the Serbs. They pressed Muslims to surrender their weapons in exchange for safety. The Muslims bowed after being tortured and punished. After having given false guarantees, the Serbs swooped on Srebrenica. They isolated the males from the females. They gathered 12,000 males, boys and men, and massacred them in different forms. One Serb stood on a Muslim man, and he dug on his face the image of the Orthodox cross, from Newsweek on Our Time magazine report. As for the women, they were assaulted regarding their honor, and some of them were burned. Others were left in the open heat to die slowly. The slaughter continued for days in Srebrenica. Its fall was in late July 1995. A mother was holding the hand of a Serbian man, saying, "Please do not slaughter my son." So he cut her hand and then placed his cut off head in front of her eyes. The massacre was taking place while the rest of the world could see, hear, eat, have fun, and play. After the slaughter of Srebrenica, Bachar Radovan Karadzic entered the city and openly declared that Srebrenica was always Serbian and has now returned to the hands of the Serb terrorists. The Serbs were raping the Muslim women, and they were holding them for 9 months until they gave birth. Why? A Serbian told a Western newspaper, "We want Muslim women to give birth to Serb babies. We remember Bosnia, Sarajevo, Banja Luka, and Srebrenica. We'll mention it and bring it back. We will not forget the Balkans. We'll never forget Granada. We will not forget Palestine." On the memory of 20 years since the crime of Europe and Serbia in Bosnia, we say, "We will not forget, we will not forgive, we will never believe in slogans of tolerance, coexistence, and human rights." Here we must record with ink of shame the position of the Orthodox Boutros Ghali, who was at the time the Secretary General of the United Nations. He sided blatantly with his Serb brothers. But unfortunately, after 20 years, we did not learn any lesson. The Serbs were singled out, religious scholars, masjid imam, intellectuals, and businessmen for killing. They tied them, then slaughtered them, and threw them in the river. When the Serbs entered the town, they started with demolishing its masjid. One of the Muslims says, "If the Serbs demolish the towns of masjid, we would have nothing to do but flee from it. The masjid represented everything." A British newspaper described the genocide of Muslims in Bosnia in this phrase: "War of the 20th century waged in the style of the middle century." Please share this post. Let us not forget our history and let us remind the future generation. Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. Allah is sufficient for us, and how great guidance is He. A message to those fascinated by Western civilization.